Thank you, everybody, for coming to Snacks with an Expert today. I'm Sam Charette. I am your events coordinator here at Spark Offices. We're a super cool co-working space. We offer a lot of amenities to our members. We have different varying levels of membership options, ranging from walk in, grab a hot seat, to having full conference space and bringing in a suite of a team in. So it's pretty neat. We do these Snacks with an Expert events a couple times a month. Our expert today is a delicious one. And she is going to be teaching us how to be healthy while on the go. I think a lot of people nowadays live very fast-paced lives, and the first thing I think that gets cut is nutrition, which is really unfortunate. And Chef Lauren is going to teach us how to not to do that.
Yes.
So
topic I love a lot.
Yeah, so, without further ado, Chef Lauren.
Thank you for having me. And thank you everyone for being here in person. I know you have so many options for ways to spend your time, so I appreciate you taking the time to come be with me. A little about me. I am local to Manchester from Massachusetts originally. Everything I do is plant passionate and clean and delicious, approachable flavors and even approachable ingredients, I would say, once you kind of wrap your head around the differences of being plant-based versus how you might currently be eating or cooking. And I always say it's not difficult, just different to cook and eat plant-based. And I'm on a mission to get more plants on more plates and more meals in more busy people's lives, including lunch. That's my latest passion, is lunchtime. So we're going to talk about a bunch of things. And what I prefer to do for these events, instead of talking at you, I prefer it to be conversational. Thus, kind of the different style of sitting in a circle. So, for those watching the replay, thank you for being here for the replay, and I'll try to answer obviously the questions that come up here in this discussion, chime in on my own kind of thoughts on things, and then it's likely that I'll think of some other kind of commonly asked questions. And I have a couple from some folks who couldn't make it, so I want to make sure to address those as well. So I guess the first thing I want to know is, when you think about what it takes to be healthy on the go, what are the things that, what are all the reasons why not? Why does it not happen? What's the story in your head? What are some excuses that you hear playing, or things you've heard from other people? I can certainly rattle off a whole bunch, but I find it much more impactful to hear what you are dealing with and try to kind of move you through that, so that you leave today with some actionable steps that you can actually use, because they're fit for your life, not me just sort of rambling, which I can do very easily. I'm sure you've picked up by now.
Me?
Yes.
Meal planning and planning ahead, so grocery store list, and then okay, I need this much for this day and this day and this day. I go to the store and I just buy the things I'm used to buying every week, and then I don't really have a plan for them, so I try to use them in the same exact way that I do every single week. But being able to plan ahead, but then to me that's time to sit down, make the list, schedule the days, what ingredients do I need for each day, then is that going to cost more, although in the long run it probably won't. But that's my hardest thing, is planning ahead and making that feel easier.
Yeah, that's such a common one, and that's one that I struggled with personally. And the meal planning in kind of the traditional sense that you're describing of choosing the recipes, making the list, going to the store, getting the things. Well, now what do I do because they don't have that thing, or that thing really doesn't look great, or they don't have it here, but I know they have it there, but I don't have time to go to that store too. It's right, so what do you do when real life happens? How do you make enough of a plan that you can operate comfortably within that, but not so much of a plan that when things happen as they naturally do, that then that planning became a waste of your time, right? And a lot of that is boosting the confidence to make those healthy choices and buy the things that you know you'll use and not throw away, that you can use in a different way, to not just eat carrots and hummus all the time. What else can you do with those carrots, or the hummus for that matter? So I like to teach, and I practice this myself, a style of cooking called batching. And so what you do is you basically have these seasonal staples and just kind of year-round evergreen staples that you're pretty much always going to have because they're healthy, you like them, and they work for your budget and the time that you have. So an example of that might be oven roasting potatoes, or sweet potatoes if you like that. Might also be shredding your own carrots. If you don't have time to do that, it might be buying shredded carrots. Shredding kale is another one that I do batch-wise. And then what you do with that because it's been prepped for you as part of your grocery shopping and coming home and unpacking process, all of that should really happen ideally that you're putting the food away, but how you put it away is that it's ready for you to use, to grab, to make a quick meal. So it's not like, okay, Monday, I gotta stop work and be home by 5 so I can cook dinner. That takes 40 minutes so that we can eat by 6 so that we're because it's just too hard to plan for that, right? And just because it's time to eat a meal doesn't necessarily mean you have to cook. It does not also mean that you have to cook a bunch of things on Sunday and eat the same thing throughout the entire week and get tired of it.
Mm-hmm.
Or plan the dinner for Wednesday on Sunday, but Wednesday rolls around and you're like, I planned to have this meal, but like I don't really feel like it. Mm-hmm. Or, like that used to happen to me all the time, right? So it sounds like a lot of that is resonating. Okay, so when you practice more of a batching technique, it's really the idea is to cook or prep once to have the ingredient ready for you for several meals thereafter. So if you're making rice or cooking pasta even, cook a little bit more than what you need for that meal so that you have it. So that you can do in a container some roasted veggies, some rice or whatever non-grain or whatever you're into that fits your diet into a container for lunch the next day and grab a sauce or a dressing. Done. And then it can be different for how you enjoyed it for dinner. And then you can, because the food is prepared in a neutral way, you can decide in the moment what it is you're feeling like eating. If you want to use some Mexican spices and make kind of a burrito bowl or tacos or roll it up in a wrap or something, you can do that with these neutral prepped things. And then you might do something very different with those same things on a different day later in the week.
That's awesome.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Questions tactically as far as like how that idea is actually going to play out based on what I've said so far?
No. I have a vision.
Okay. Well, I am now. Okay. Amazing. Amazing. So one of the other things that I really am into that I kind of noticed just by way of like how I like to eat is that meals are categorized into different methods, and they basically break down into 8 categories, and within that there's categories still. So breakfasts, lunch and dinner essentials, which are going to be salads, bowls, dressings, that type of thing. Enhancements, so kind of your things that just like make a meal that much better, like a cheesy cashew-based sauce or mushrooms that have been like marinated and roasted and just so amazing, or hummus, different stuff like that. And then there's soups and stews, then there's handhelds, shareables, one-pot meals, and desserts. And then within that, you might have tacos. Okay, there are so many different types of healthier tacos you could make. So many different kinds of soups and stews you could make. So many different, obviously, salads, power bowls, dressings. And then kind of once you understand this gigantic matrix that you have available, just by thinking about doing this differently, the combinations that you have within that are insane. Similarly to how you might stock your closet with a bunch of basics for clothing and styles of things that you love, colors that work well for you. So now you can mix and match and have endless amounts of outfits, hopefully. That's kind of the ideal goal, right? So we can actually do the same with our food and with our ingredients. And the other thing too, I heard you say that isn't always a bad thing, but if you always have the same things that you're buying at the store, those are just basically your staples, your things that if your home were a restaurant, if your kitchen were a restaurant, like those are just the things on your shopping list, and that's okay. But I think what a lot of people do is they get stuck on those staples. And they're like, well, like we just eat a lot of spinach. I don't know, like there are other greens out there, right? Or we just always reach for whatever thing. So part of it also is learning more about like flavor profile wise or just usability. Like what else is similar to spinach? Baby bok choy. Maybe it takes a little getting used to, the little bulb there, but it's kind of fun to use every so often. Or in season Swiss chard, delicious and super healthy for you, right? So even within that, there are some fun ways that you can experience variety without feeling like you're tackling like a whole group of things that are new to you each time, because that can be daunting too. Yeah. So cool. Okay, beautiful. Great question. Thanks. What else? Who else has some thoughts? I forget what my original question was. Something about the blocks and the thoughts and the
what gets in your way
what
of
gets
eating
in your way
in your day.
Of eating healthy.
You're looking at me because
I'm
you know.
looking at you because I know you have a good one.
Well, I mean, I don't know if I have a good one. Now you're putting me on the spot. I just know that food to me frustrates me because it gets in the way. And I personally feel that we are the most inefficient machines on this planet because it's so stupid that we have to keep recharging every 3 hours, even if we don't even get up and do anything. It's not, if that happened to your phone, you throw it in the trash. Why are we operating like this? It's frustrating, okay? It's frustrating. So, but I do like to cook food for other people, but I do not like to cook food for myself. It is a lot of work, a lot of prep, and a lot of cleanup for no reason. And then I have to stop and eat it, and I don't have the time to even eat it, never mind make it. So everything I have has to be, during the day, has to be portable. Has to be something I can pick up and run with or carry while I'm doing something else. Otherwise, it won't get in my mouth. So I don't know if that, I mean, it's just the time thing. I just, most of my day is just back to back to back to back. And then when I do have a second, I'm getting to the next thing. So.
Yep, my lunch box contains granola bars, an apple, 2 cuties every single day. That's all I throw in there. And I just snack throughout the day because, I don't know, finding time to sit down and actually have a meal by myself is just not, I don't know, not highest on my list, I guess.
It's really not.
Yeah.
And it's not, it's stupid, I know. It's really not smart. Especially because of the way that I eat now, you know, more plant-based. It changes the way you think. It gives you more energy. I very rarely ever have caffeine, ever. And before, I used to have nothing but Bang energy drinks, like 2 of those a day with just 1 protein bar, and I wouldn't eat anything. Now, it's because I didn't have any nutrients to give me the energy, so I flipped it, and I just put nutrients in there instead of garbage. It's amazing. It's amazing. I don't even know how this happened.
Yes, you do. Okay, so I want to interpret that to ask a question, but I want to ask a question over here first to ask you, how do you feel, or how do you then approach dinner time to make the choice of what's for dinner based on what you've eaten, or really like not spend time eating throughout the day based on that lunchbox situation?
So dinner for me usually ends up being around like 8 or 9 o'clock at night, and most of the time it's just like toast and peanut butter because I just want to go to bed.
Got you. Okay. And how do you sleep?
Not awesome, but I mean, I don't know. I've got a lot going on up here too, so
Yeah,
I feel like, you know,
understandable.
it's hard to shut it off anyway.
Yeah, understandable. So, so a couple of thoughts also that I want to come back to, so don't let me forget about that as far as cooking for others or with others versus by yourself, and what's the point, and all of that. But I want to address kind of like the timeline of meals that really can help people understand why lunch is so important. Or if lunch isn't your thing, like why a solid breakfast or even like a brunch or something. Maybe you can start your workday a little bit later, or you get kind of some tasks done at home before you go into the office or whatever. So brunch is more your thing because that's what you have time for, whatever. Or you have showings with clients. You're not going to do it at 8 o'clock in the morning. Maybe you wait till 10 or 11 or something.
Right.
So if lunch is not possible, can you take brunch instead? And what we eat for lunch, or whether we eat lunch or not, determines the decision that we make for dinner and what time we eat dinner, which then affects our sleep and how well rested we can possibly get through the night. And then you're going to wake up and do whatever for breakfast, probably hurry out the door with a smoothie or a granola bar or something, or just not eat breakfast, and then you're back into making that not great decision or no decision for lunch. And then just the cycle just sort of repeats until then you reach the point of like, oh my gosh, I need to just eat something, I don't even care what it is, and then you're like jumping off the ledge of bad decisions simply because you've neglected to refuel your body when it's most actively burning food as fuel for your benefit, and when it's feeding your brain, and when it's like, anyway, long story short, I have found such benefit, and I don't nail it every day, I'll be honest, but when you can take the time, even just 10 or 15 minutes, if you've got lunch already kind of prepared because you saved some of last night's dinner, or you did a little bit of the batching, or made a bunch of sandwiches, whatever, you take that 10 or 15 minutes, you sit with your food and you eat, and you're paying attention to it. It doesn't take as long as you might think to eat lunch. It takes practice getting into the practice of doing that and managing your schedule in that way, of course, but you're able to actually process that you've eaten a meal, and then you're not like taking 3 hours to eat a sandwich because you're taking calls and you're answering emails and you're like, oh my god, well, I made a good try, but I guess that's dinner now. It's like, no, take the break, work that into the way that you operate, right? Like there's a reason why in schools and in daycares, like they have time for lunch, like it's literally essential. what they actually feed them at those is a topic for another day. But it's important for us. Like, we don't have to work as hard as we're telling ourselves we have to work. We fuel our bodies. We put the right fuel in the machine. It will work so well for us for a long time, right? Like, take care of the machine as if it's the only one that you'll have, because it is. Back to what you were saying about not liking cooking for yourself and kind of the what's the point thing. I wonder if cooking for other people, right, thinking like weekend breakfast, maybe you could make, instead of just breakfast for that one Sunday morning, maybe breakfast becomes like a larger frittata or a quiche, and you have a couple slices on Sunday, and then now you have the rest of that to eat throughout the week. You can even kind of chop it up and put it in a wrap if you're like, oh my God, but I don't have time to sit before because I got to be on the road by whatever, and wrap it up. Perfect. Grill it or not, and you're out the door. Same thing goes for lunch. Like, if you find visiting or just chatting and like being in the kitchen with other people works better for you, make an activity of it. I mean, how many times are we looking for activities that's not something you have to go pay to do or schedule to do or another show to watch or like whatever? Like, you've got to do the food thing in some way. There's no getting out of it, unfortunately. So if you can't lose it, use it, right? And you always say that.
Yeah, but I don't know how to using up all my time prepping and cleaning and cooking for myself.
Well,
if I could just take
you're
one
going to
pill
stack
a day,
it into doing it. I know,
everything
but
I
we're not going to
needed.
go there. We're not going to go
I would be good to go every day. I
We'll
know.
invent it.
I know. Just
Yeah,
one pill a day.
captive audience.
They got a pill for
Yes.
everything else.
Yes.
They don't have a pill for eating.
But making an activity out of it. If you have kids, involve the kids if they're of the age if they can help, they get excited, and then now you've got sandwiches at least to get you through the first half of the week. Sometimes people find it beneficial to take like Wednesday evening or maybe some time on Thursday to take inventory of what's in the fridge. How are you feeling? What's coming up for the weekend? Do you want to go grocery shopping for a couple of items so that you can see what you still have in the fridge? What's spoiled maybe gets rid of. You just can like keep on top of ingredients better when you can break it into almost like two sections. Break your week, break your cooking into two chunks. That way you're not buying a ton of stuff on one day, expecting it to last for 7, and then still just being mystified at all of what you're throwing away. And you can even habit stack that a little bit too. Like maybe, I don't know, maybe Wednesday night you pick up takeout, and then the deal is if you do that, you're gonna spend some time Thursday going to the store, or you make a pit stop, you go a different way home from work, or when you do the delivery thing, or just pick it up on the way, like whatever. There's so many ways to make it easy to do this. So yeah, that's what I would say to you, although some people are fortunate to live with a private chef, so they don't really have that challenge. Hypothetically they might, but
But overall, is it fair to say that you're telling us that if prisoners get a lunch break, then we have no excuse?
yes.
Because if even you could go to prison and they make you stop for lunch
Yes.
in prison,
Yes.
then work shouldn't be your prison?
I guess
So-
so. That's
Wow,
one way to
getting so
interpret it.
deep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. That's what I was hearing you say before.
Sure, we
It
can go with
makes
that.
sense though.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, like if we live in all this supposed freedom, but we don't even have a second to eat, the prisoners have to take a second to eat, and they've got no freedom. That's something's out of alignment.
Choice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Yes.
So I'm kind of on the flip side of everything that we've talked about so
Okay.
far. So I don't have any problem eating my lunch or going through my day and having my food and whatnot.
Yeah.
But I find that when I go more plant-based, that I feel shaky. I don't feel like I'm getting enough from what I'm sourcing. I'm not getting enough fuel out of it.
Okay.
And maybe I'm not maybe I'm not choosing the right plant-based things or the right healthy items. But I feel like if I'm not having some sort of protein or carb, that I'm not going to make it through the day.
Yeah. Okay. What kinds of things, when you're having those plant-based options, or like making that as the selection, what are you actually eating?
I do a lot of fruit. For vegetables, mushrooms, cucumbers, chickpeas, a lot of peanut butter. Not a lot of peanut butter, but peanut butter is definitely on the list. Cheese. Trying to think. No.
Okay, yeah, not to
that's
put you like
yeah,
super on
that's-
the spot, but I never want to guess at what
Mhm.
someone is working with.
Yeah.
So that's why I usually ask. So, so I recently have really been enjoying a book called Glucose Revolution.
Mhm.
And that talks all about the glucose response in our bodies based on the order in which we eat our food or the type of food we're reaching for. So for example, when you said fruit, fruit is, although it is natural, like a natural form of sugar, it's still glucose and fructose and like all those things breaking down in our bodies. And so for most people, managing the glucose spikes, I am learning, this is like a new interest of mine, but is hugely helpful for lots of processes in the body. As far as managing like the plant-based choice for protein versus an animal choice for protein, you might notice that you could make a plant-based choice for breakfast or lunch, but you still need animal protein at dinner.
Mhm.
The reverse might be true. So in the attempt to get more plants on the plate, it doesn't have to be that it's exclusively plants on the plate always. Because every body is different and every person is in a different season of life where you might feel great right now eating some animal products. That might change. And again, the reverse could be true. You might feel great eating no animal products right now. In the future, that might not be true. Or even based on the time of year. If you think historically, during the wintertime, you can't go out and pick an apple off a tree or like forage for cucumbers. Like it's not possible here. So what do we eat? We ate things like roots and things that kept well through the winter, but also we were hunting and using all parts of the animal and all that. So thinking a little bit more seasonally too with the foods that we're using as fuel really not only provides great flavor and nutrition benefit, but they're just overall better for you and it's a better experience. I even noticed that. I think one time I had a client who was asking for butternut squash in May. Like, this is a terrible idea, but okay. It was hard to find butternut squash in May, and it was not good. It had no flavor. The color was not so saturated and so vibrant. Like paying more attention to the colors of foods and the textures of foods and just like how vibrant it feels and looks can really kind of help to tune you into what's seasonal and what's not. Like right now, citrus, for example, is coming kind of to the end of citrus season before we head into spring, around the corner, hopefully not too far away. But just noticing what kind of comes into abundance and then kind of as that abundance wanes, that's usually a pretty good sign of how seasonal it may or may not be. But how did that kind of first pass response land for tackling the challenge that you face? Because we can go deeper there too a little bit if we need to.
Maybe my question should have been like some examples of just different ingredients that have more fuel to them, because maybe I'm just eating the ones that just don't have enough power in them, and that's my realm going.
Yep. So the other thing too to consider, and it's usually kind of when people are first trying to understand going more plant-based or really not getting their protein from animal products, they want to like pair their food. Like, okay, well, I want to make complete protein, so I'm going to pair this with this and pair this with this. And you can do that, and you can just hit the internet for a search for that, kind of have some guidance. But generally speaking, I have at least found kind of within the framework that I was kind of describing answering your question, getting a couple of different vegetables in there, definitely some leafy greens, some kind of healthy fat, whether that comes from whole nuts and seeds or olives or avocado or like incorporating that into a salad dressing even. That can be really helpful, give you some extra staying power. And even sprinkling on some extra seeds to the final dish that aren't really going to add some like huge flavor, really any flavor at all, but things like hemp seeds, ground up pumpkin seeds, sesame seeds, flax seeds, like different things like that. And you might also benefit from pairing a plant-based meal with I don't know, maybe to finish for like a dessert after a lunch or something, or dinner, you have a smoothie with some protein powder, or you know, something like that. You have an apple or half an apple with some peanut butter, or just like noticing kind of what combination of things are going to feel good. Or if you know it's going to be a plant-based meal, maybe you eat a larger portion, or you kind of just eat till that point of fullness. Do you feel like you find that point of fullness when you have a plant-based meal, or that's still kind of like lacking for you?
No, I'll eat till I'm full.
Okay.
I'll keep going.
And recipes, I would say, like if I had to hit the internet to search for a recipe to give you like right now, power bowls, plant-based or vegan, if you wanted to use that search term, power bowls are usually going to have a grain or like a warm component or even a grain substitute to them, versus if you just reach for a salad or like a vegetarian, like a hummus wrap or
that could
something.
be where I'm going wrong, is I definitely am way more salad driven.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably why I'm not having
Yeah.
barely any seeds, and using like protein from like cheese if I'm not putting like a chicken on
Yep.
it.
Okay. So then the other thing also I'll add is you mentioned chickpeas, but there's so many other beans and legumes and lentils, just like other things available that you might find are so much more satisfying. Like for example, today I had a Moroccan lentil salad, black lentils, arugula, roasted butternut squash, a couple of other things on there, and I couldn't finish the portion. Like I was okay, because I was paying attention to the plate. I reached the natural point of fullness, felt like it was, it's like, okay, I've had enough to eat now, I'm gonna move on with whatever, and that was fine. And here we are. And then I'll be naturally, again, appropriately hungry at the right time for dinner, and now kind of like properly fueled and aware enough to make a great choice for dinner. And hopefully then some good choices on the other side for dessert and snack, and like, not too much sugar before bed and all of that. Yeah. I'm happy to also share even like just some personal faves of some kind of like local places, that could be like a good to try a meal from somewhere else to see how that feels for you before you go getting the ingredients, taking the time to cook it, and then only to discover like that recipe was not great, or this still doesn't feel great. Like sometimes it's helpful to try before you buy, if you will. Although the other side of that is making your own food in your own home is always so much more delicious, and it's fresher, and you can just control the flavor a lot more.
Yeah.
And then, and the quality of ingredients too. So it's a bit of a double-edged sword.
Yeah, that was helpful. Thank you.
Okay, good. You're welcome. That's a good question. Thanks. Okay, so I want to make sure that I answer one question that I know someone had, and I think it'll probably still be helpful for people in the room here. Well, the question is, I buy healthy food at the store, like many people strive to do, and then it's always a question of storage. How do I not throw away all of this food, or like your question, what is there something else that I can do with this ingredient so that it's not as boring throughout the week? So I have a couple of suggestions there. The first being that people always love, that I still even love, but store your berries. If you're buying berries, store them in glass, sealed glass, so you can get those nice mason jars with lids. I like the plastic lids because they don't separate and get rusty. They will keep like 3 times as long. You don't have to, you could pre-wash them and like dry them before you put them in so that they're just ready to go, but you can wash as
Do you
you
put water
take them
in
out,
those
whatever.
jars?
No. Nope. For your carrot sticks, celery sticks, if that's kind of a thing you reach for, especially if you're doing kind of like a bento box, kind of like easy to go lunch sort of deal, or you have kids, you can slice a bunch of those ahead of time and you would store those in water. That way they stay crispy. They don't brown.
Also in glass.
Either one. That one doesn't matter so much if it's in water. Glass storage, I would say, is preferred. It is going to be a little bit more expensive than plastic, and also a little more risky, of course, for breaking and dropping out of the fridge, especially, again, if there are kids that just kind of help themselves to stuff, and they're heavier, of course, but glass is usually, my preferred, although I do use plastic a fair amount. And then in terms of like using things differently, right? So like let's say you buy a bag of carrots. You can buy a small bag, you can buy a big bag. I usually buy the big bag because I'll take a third of those and maybe make carrot sticks. I'll take a third of that and shred carrots myself because I prefer the texture, the flavor. They maintain a lot more of their natural water content that way. and side-by-side taste tests, world of difference. If you're ever curious, try it. And then the other ones I might just save for chopping up to saute, or if I make a soup that week, or whatever. But I find that whole carrots, they keep a couple of weeks typically. The other things too, for any vegetables that you've chopped or sliced maybe with your food processor, or even just a box of greens or a bag of greens that you might buy, stick a paper towel in there. That's going to help to absorb the extra moisture. Even a linen towel if you want to, be a little greener. And that just helps to have the moisture, like have some place to go. So it's not just sitting on the food, rotting it. The other thing also that people kind of tend to forget is when you buy the produce from the store, it doesn't always have the same shelf life. So you might reach for a bunch of tomatoes that they just put out, but the kale you grabbed is 2 days in, or it feels kind of like a little bit old and limp. So paying attention and just keeping your eyes on the produce, kind of just always like head on a swivel, I tell people, or just like scanning, just checking on things, making sure that something's not shoved in the back corner of your fridge getting too cold, or that you forgot about it, and like whoops,
Frozen
yeah,
stuff all the way in the back drives me
it's
nuts.
so annoying. I know.
That's where I put the tequila now.
Yes.
And it keeps cold and nothing gets frozen back there. So that's a good tip.
I love it, so smart. And then I like to have kind of a very organized fridge. I don't know if for some people maybe that's not possible. It's possible for everyone, truly, I think. But knowing where things get kept. Same in your closet, right? Like you have things that's just where that goes, so I can find it when I need it, or so I can tell when it's dirty, or I can tell when it's gone, so you know when it's time to put it back on your list. Instead of just buying something that's same every week, and meanwhile you just keep throwing it away.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely a challenge for me too.
Yeah.
I want to see a picture of the organized fridge.
Yeah.
That's what I want to see. I want to see a picture of what the personal chef's fridge looks like.
Yeah.
For
I just was
example.
at an event last night chatting with someone who is a home organizer. We really hit it off, so I'm excited to bring her in to talk about the kitchen specifically because, I have ways that I like to organize things, but everyone's kitchen and everyone's lifestyle is so different. She knows far more than I'm going to, so more on that coming soon. However, I will say labeling things, and even like labeling where things go, like for example in your pantry, we have a pretty deep pantry cabinet, so I have small bins in there that these ones don't happen to stretch all the way back, like they're not deep, but they could be if that's what I bought. And I'll have all my vinegars together, so that way when I'm cooking or just seasoning something and I need vinegar, I just take out the bin of vinegar and they're all right there. Or we have our snacks. We have our dried fruit and nuts in one, and then we have our salty stuff in the other. So I'm like, I'm going to Trader Joe's today. Do we need any fun, salty, whatever snacks? Like maybe not. So that then it's like that just doesn't pile up and grow because everything is hiding all over the place and we have no idea what we actually have. I think that's helpful too from a budget standpoint, just to know it's like this is the kind of apple cider vinegar I buy, and when it's low I put it on the list instead of like, how many times have you bought like 6 of the same thing and you're like, when am I going to use all this sesame oil? Like I don't need all this, Yeah, so that was kind of the piece I wanted to address about storage. And it sounds like we've got kind of some shared challenges around kitchen organization and storage too. Yeah. But it's not easy to make the best use of your space and the drawers and the
and that's part of like when I go to the store and I buy those same things every week. Like I get home and I put them in and I'm like, I already had that, but it was just like on my brain that like that's what we use and we must need more. That's part of my recipe for this week, and like I don't even think to like go through and like sit down, make that list to do my prep.
Yeah, something else that's helpful for folks too, especially as they're focused on buying what they can realistically use and only buying it when they've used it, right? Is to make a list of all the things that you like to cook with or that you notice are common among the recipes that you're reaching for. So let's say like onions, for example, white onions, red onions, whatever. Make yourself a shopping list like on your computer, print it out, and then when you need that item, or maybe you like keep it on your phone or like somehow, I don't know, you make yourself an ordering guide. So it's got all the things that you always buy, and then you use that almost like they sell those like notepads, right? Of like my grocery list for this week of whatever, and it lists all the healthy things, and you just check off what you need to buy because you've gone through and you've seen, okay, last week I bought all this, and well, that would be great for like a stir fry or an Asian recipe, but I need this and this to make that sauce. Okay, buy this and this. And then you still get to use those things that you already bought, but now like in a way that you can actually do something. Yeah. So I think like helping yourself with like a framework or like a template kind of in that way. And you can get a little fun and creative with it if that's your jam. Maybe I'll add that to one of my programs if that's something that people would benefit from, like as a download or something. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. Okay. And I think I covered everything I wanted to about storage. Appliance storage also. Let's chat about that one for a second. Just as I'm thinking of it. Anyone have appliances in their kitchen that have missing pieces, are broken, they don't use, can't reach?
Yes.
Anyone? Yes, still? Yes. Okay. So part of the mental challenge, I think, for a lot of people is knowing that and knowing that they haven't done anything about it. And like wanting to make a sauce, but it needs that blender that's all the way in the back that has the missing something anyway, and it sounds funny when I use it, so like forget it, I'll just whatever. Going through the appliances and taking inventory of what you have, what you need, especially when like holidays and things come up and you're like, I don't know what I want for whatever. It's like, okay, well, maybe you're now ready and like you've realized all these recipes. You're like, I'd love a high-speed blender. I'd love a food processor that actually works, that has the right attachments in it. So you can start asking for these things or just start planning to invest in these things that are actually going to make your life a lot easier and help you to look forward to cooking. Like, I don't want to open the closet where my clothes live if it's a mess or if I don't have anything in there that I love. No way. I'll wear the same thing every day, thanks. Just like if your kitchen is a mess and you don't really love or feel connected to the food as the fuel and the flavor and the joy of it all, you're like, no, I'll just always eat this one sandwich from this place, or I'll just make myself toast. That's fine. You know? I love toast, by the way, so that's not a dig on you.
Pretty pointed.
So it's a holistic kind of approach to the kitchen as a workspace and as a space where joy can live, and where health really starts. Part of that also includes having good knives, having a cutting board that's not terrible, and hopefully not glass. Even having towels, like hand towels and things that you love. Maybe it's like just some nice textiles that's like you didn't just get this at like whatever cheapy place. Like, you know, maybe you get some good quality stuff that also looks pretty hanging in your kitchen. Or you have some plants in there that you enjoy coming in to take care of, or like whatever. Like the kitchen can also be a joyful and sacred space that you now enjoy spending time in.
So why not a glass cutting board?
They're not great for the knives. And if you chip off, and you know, they're usually like kind of bumpy in the chance that anything would kind of nick into the food. I honestly don't know why they sell glass cutting boards, but you can't get a good like rhythm going when you're cutting with them. It hurts your ears. It's
I
just
got the
like,
sound. I can
you know
hear
the
it.
sound.
Yeah.
You can't hear it,
Yeah,
and
my
it's
mom's
just
house
not.
When I was a kid, I can hear it.
Yeah. Plastic cutting boards are mostly fine. Wood cutting boards are also great if that's your thing. Each one has its own kind of proper care and maintenance that you want to pay attention to. But similar to anything that we do, how we invest in the tools that help us complete the task or the job is going to be a good indication of how successful that's going to be. You know, just like if you try to do, you know, let's put it into work terms, for example, you try to do some deliverables for a client on Windows 10, good luck making graphics they can use in 2023. Probably not going to happen. Like, just like you've got this old whatever machine that like barely works, or knives that have been sharpened in years, you can't expect to enjoy cutting or to safely cut whatever it is. So setting up with the proper things, not just food, but the other kind of piece can be huge. And I will add, kind of since we're on the topic of joy too, play some music while you do it. Have some fresh flowers. Like make a night of it. Make an event of it. A little, even on Sunday. I had a client recently that was kind of not struggling, but a little bit challenged with, you know, like my husband loves to watch the sports on Sunday. That's not really my thing. whatever, but I want to be doing the meal prep. He's not really into it. So I said, okay, well, maybe you spend time on Sunday each doing something that fills your cup, and it's all good if he wants to watch the games and the whatever, and you can be listening to a podcast or just listening to music, just like spending the time doing the thing that sets you up for a great week. Like, you don't always have to be involving everyone in all of your initiatives at home, your health this and your whatever that. Like, if they're not interested, fine, I'll do it, but I'm gonna make this fun for me. Pour a glass of wine while you do it. Who cares? Make it a mimosa, right? Whatever. Speaking of, we've got some little snacks that I forgot about. This could also be your dinner, but these are just a little natural Snickers bar. And I've got some rosé, sparkling rosé in the fridge too, if we want to have a little taste.
Can you talk to cookware sort of
Yes.
go along with the appliances piece?
Sure. Yeah. So again, kind of similar to the appliances, cookware is going to be obviously an important piece of this. So investing in something, I would say investing in a system that storage-wise is going to work for you. I really love the pieces that stack in themselves if you're working with tight space. However, for some people, it's cumbersome and kind of annoying. If they need the big pot, they got to take out the little pots, and then it's like whatever. So you might find hanging it somewhere might work better. These have nuts, by the way. I hope nobody has a nut allergy.
Good.
It's so good.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
Right?
beautiful. So you might find like a hanging system works better. They make so many different types of lids and lid organization systems now. Like I was cooking at a client's home once, and they had the coolest, like the lid was actually flat. It didn't have a handle on it. On the top, it had a handle that was like the same, like a pot handle.
Really?
So that was kind of a nice system. There also are plenty of cookware systems that have universal lids now. So it's like the pot or the pan, same lid, and it's like maybe even the same size for the lid. It's just like different depth or like, you know, however they design the whole whatever. So so a lot of the systems are pretty smart these days. And then as far as what it's like lined with, that's often where people get stuck, especially when they start doing more healthy cooking and more chopping and sauteing and that sort of thing. So Hexclad is a great brand from what I've seen, and I know people who have them. I don't have them yet, but I'm excited to get them. Maybe they'd be a good birthday gift. Hint, hint.
Glad you said birthday, not Valentine's Day.
We
coming
already
up.
talked
It's
about
coming
that.
up.
Anyway, but yeah, making sure that you have pieces that you like, that you take care of them. Ideally cooking utensils, like kind of like the spatulas and you know, the tongs, like all of those things. Ideally, those don't go in the dishwasher. It's okay if they do. I prefer not to put them in the dishwasher, because how annoying is it when you're like making breakfast and you're like, oh my god, I need the whatever, and it's in the dishwasher, and now you have to wash it before you can use it. So annoying. So if you like putting them in the dishwasher, fine, but have enough of them that you don't need to always wash it because that's the only one you have. Or just start to get in the habit of not putting it in there.
When I know I'm gonna run the dishwasher that night.
Yes, and we do a fair amount of that as well. Yeah, but it's just the general rule is even like measuring cups and those things, like don't put those in there because it's the only one of that size and we're gonna need it. Cookware, what else can I say about cookware? I personally don't have like a go-to brand or like, you know, brand partnership or whatever that I can recommend or prefer. I think personally at home we use Cuisinart, or I don't know, KitchenAid's another kind of
KitchenAid, we have a lot of that.
kind of good brand too. But just researching like a little bit, finding what's going to work for your budget, for your storage system, and then again for what's exciting to you. Maybe something in a flashy color like makes you like turned on to cook. I don't know. Maybe you don't care, and hand-me-downs from someone is fine too.
The color works for me.
Yeah. I'm even like also thinking of a set that I saw in that yellow color of the napkin that I'm like, I think I kind of want that.
I totally recall.
Yeah. And then also just making sure you have enough like variety as far as sizes go. Sheet pans, having enough of those so you can do, as part of your batching, you can do enough roasting. You can mostly fill your oven to get like the most bang for your buck. Like we have a crazy high electric bill because of all the cooking and things that happen, right? So it's like you don't want to run your oven all day on a Sunday. Like, can you get the right appliances and cookware that make the most, the most of the time that it's running? Yeah. Does that answer kind of enough about cookware? Yeah. And there are fancy shops you can go to also if you want to touch it more and then kind of decide on the brand that you want to buy, and then you hit the internet to find the best deal.
Amazon has some good options.
Yes. Yep. And checking reviews too before you buy a piece of equipment or a cookware set. The reviews usually are really helpful too. Yeah. Yeah.
What about recommended or refurbished? So if you're talking
Yeah.
clients, right? So maybe you're talking about a blender
Yep.
earlier. If you know that the brand that you want is a more high-end brand, but that's the one you're willing to, would a refurbished one be? Okay?
Yeah, I have a refurbished Vitamix and it's wonderful. Yep. So again, it's just kind of back to like what model do I want or what price range do I want to be in, and then just sort of watching for when, when the refurbished distributor has one that fits, that whatever. The other thing too is I'm a big fan of having, like, if you have a blender, have multiple pitchers, especially if you're going to really embrace the idea of batching and making a lot of sauces and things, like having a bunch that as you're cooking and like doing the thing that you don't have to stop so much to do the dishes. Like cleaning as you go definitely helps, but I don't know, the more that you have to kind of mix and match with, I think the easier that process tends to be. Yeah.
Thank you.
Good question. Any other final questions or thoughts? I think the wine's still in the fridge. If anyone wants to stay after hours for a little sip, you're welcome to.
Thank you.
But I want to kind of wrap up the recording here. Any final questions, thoughts, things for people?
This has just been so great.
Yeah.
I really appreciate your time.
Wonderful.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. Thank you, Spark, for
yummy.
hosting us.
Yeah, it was
Yes. Welcome.
Can I buy like a few dozen of those things?
Yeah,
I know.
I mean, maybe for Valentine's Day, I should figure out how to get some boxes of, we'll call it Chef Lorenz. Fancy it up a little
You can
bit
make
for the
it.
holiday.
Make them for the kids.
And make the truffles. I make some
The
truffles
truffles
too that
are
are really
amazing.
rad.
Truffles
The
were
truffles
good.
Yeah.
are
So
ridiculous.
Would you be willing to share the recipe for those? Or is that like
Sure.
chef's secret?
Oh, it's not chef's secret. It's very simple.
Yeah, maybe we can send everybody that attended
Sure.
the event.
You could even post it. Well, I probably at some point will post it to my blog.
Okay.
So when I do have that, I will share it, and you can put it with
We'll link it with the
video.
video.
Fabulous.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you everyone for
you.
spending
I
some